The issue of abortion is much like that line from The Godfather Part 3 when Michael Corleone looks at his family members and says, "Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in again." Well, in this case, the country's been pulled back into a fresh debate on the question of abortion thanks to Donald Trump and some posts he put out on Truth Social on Monday morning. What exactly did he say? Hold on, folks. We're going to get into all this in just 1 second. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative. Step on up to my electronic front porch and let's talk. Hi, folks. Brian Trippett here, the front porch conservative, and I was wondering if I could ask a favor of you. My YouTube channel is getting really close to 1,000 subscribers, and my Rumble channel is getting close to 200 subs as well. So here's my ask. Please subscribe to both my YouTube and my Rumble channels if you're not currently a subscriber. Also, hit the bell for notifications. I want to make sure that you're always aware when new material is coming out, be it a video or a live stream. As I've said on many occasions, this channel is a going little concern. I'd like to make it a going big concern, but I can't do that without your help. And with that, on to the video. The abortion issue in America is one of those items that's never going to totally go away in one form or another. There are some moments when it's hotter than others, some moments when it cools off a little bit. Well, Donald Trump turned up the heat on it again by putting out some posts on Truth Social. Well, let's go to the news and then take a look at what he said and see what we think about the whole thing. We start with ABC News. Trump says abortion should be a states' rights issue. Republicans, quote, must also win elections. Trump said what individual states decide must be the law of the land. Article written by Layli Ibsa and Surin Kim. We have the following. After months of dodging questions about his abortion position, former President Donald Trump rejected calls to endorse a national abortion ban, saying he believes it should be a states' rights issue, though he declined to say a specific number of weeks bans should be set at. Okay, let's go to the post on Truth Social and just hear it for ourselves. Now, the post runs about 4.5 minutes. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I will pick out some parts that I think are pretty relevant. The first minute 10, Trump discusses the IVF issue, and particularly as it revolves around the state of Alabama. And then he goes into the question of, well, what is my position on abortion? Well, I'll let you hear it from the man himself. Folks, do me a favor and take a listen to this.
Many people have asked me what my position is on abortion and abortion rights, especially since I was proudly the person responsible for the ending of something that all legal scholars, both sides, wanted and, in fact, demanded be ended. Roe v. Wade. They wanted it ended.
Okay, Donald, I like you, but I got to stop you right there. That's just a little bit of an exaggeration, just a wee bit of an exaggeration to say that all legal scholars wanted it ended. Now, it's very true that there were legal scholars on the left, particularly Lawrence Tribe at one point, and even the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who found the way that Roe was decided to be problematic and its effect to be impractical. But to say that everybody wanted rid of it, I'm sorry. That's just a little bit of a stretch that not even I can handle. But okay, you said it. So what exactly, Donald, is your position on abortion? Well, that takes us to clip number 2. Folks, do me a favor and check this one out because here he lays it out in more detail.
Everyone agrees with that. My view is now that we have abortion where everybody wanted it from a legal standpoint, the states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land. In this case, the law of the state. Many states will be different. Many will have a different number of weeks, or some will have more conservative than others, and that's what they will be. At the end of the day, this is all about the will of the people. You must follow your heart or, in many cases, your religion or your faith. Do what's right for your family and do what's right for yourself. Do what's right for your children. Do what's right for our country and vote. So important to vote. At the end of the day, it's all about will of the people. That's where we are right now, and that's what we want, the will of the people.
Okay. Trump is doing something that, frankly, I wish Republicans would have done a long time ago, and that is take a classic states' rights issue on the question of abortion and emphasize that more than they did the other things that revolved around the question of abortion. Now, don't get me wrong. As a proud pro lifer, and have been ever since I was a very young man, Roe v. Wade was a bad decision on so many different levels: constitutional, practical, medical, ethical, etc. But the biggest and perhaps the largest problem with the way that Roe was handled is that it took the question of how each individual state wanted to handle the issue of abortion out of the hands of their legislatures and ultimately the people, and put it in the hands of individuals wearing black robes who are unelected and unaccountable to everyone. Well, the Dobbs decision, while ballyhooed and wailed about by many on the left, did the one thing that everybody in the end was hoping for: put the question back in the hands of the state legislatures. So, in that regard, Trump is taking a classic 10th Amendment position, which, frankly, like I said, I think the Republicans should have been pushing all along. And frankly, when the Dobbs decision came down, they most certainly should have stuck to that position. But we'll get to that a little bit later. One last clip from Trump, and this goes on to flesh out a little bit more where he's at himself personally on this. So, do me a favor, take a listen to this one, then we'll get us some more discussion.
Like Ronald Reagan, I am strongly in favor of exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. You must follow your heart of this issue, but remember, you must also win elections to restore our culture and, in fact, to save our country, which is currently and very sadly a nation in decline.
Okay, I'm going to take exception with Trump right here. I understand what he's trying to say, but I also think there's a misunderstanding of how this, along with many cultural issues, ought to be handled. Trump says, okay, we've got to win elections to save our culture. No, you work to save the culture, and then the elections will reflect that. It's a top down view that Trump is espousing here. Like I said, I know what he's getting at, but by the same token, it's not totally the right thing to be saying, at least from a practical standpoint and honestly from a position standpoint. But his point is valid. If you can't win elections, you can't do anything to move your issues forward. And this is one of the things that I think Trump is trying to get across to the Republican Party as far as how the issue of abortion ought to be handled going forward. Now, the interesting thing about Trump's statement on abortion, the 4.5 minute clip he put out on Truth Social, you would think that it would be the left and the pro abortion forces who would have raised the most cane about this. Interestingly enough, his opposition came from the pro life movement in general and from people inside the Republican Party in particular. I take you to Fox News, and this is where things really start getting spicy. Headline: Pro-life conservatives are disappointed in Trump's new abortion policy, but they're going to stick with him. Quote, only one option. Quote, pro-life voters have only one option in November. Article by Brianna Herrlich. We read the following. Conservative groups backing former President Donald Trump in his re-election bid say they are, quote, deeply disappointed with his official position on abortion unveiled on Monday, but it won't deter their support in November. The former president and presumptive GOP nominee, in a video posted on Truth Social Monday morning, said he cemented his position on the controversial issue, saying that abortion access should be a state's issue and didn't endorse a national federal limitation, for example, like a 15-week ban. Okay, that's from the pro-life groups, but it's inside his own party is where it gets really funny. Check this out from NBC News. Headline: Lindsey Graham says Trump is making, quote, a mistake on abortion, vows to push forward with nationwide restrictions. The South Carolina Republican said the GOP presidential nominee is wrong to say the issue should be left to the states, pressing his case that there should be some federal limits. Article by Sahil Kapoor, we read the following. Senator Lindsey Graham sparred with Donald Trump on Monday after the former president attacked the South Carolina Republican for pushing his bill to outlaw abortions across the U.S. after 15 weeks of pregnancy. While Trump said the issue should be left to the states, Graham vowed to keep pressing for federal limits. Quote, I think we should draw a line, Graham told reporters. We know that the Dobbs decision did not say there's no federal role. That's not totally correct, but we'll get to that in a minute. There are 3 laws on the books at the federal level, so the idea that Dobbs prevents the federal government from acting, I think, is an error. The idea of the Republican Party abandoning the opposition to late-term abortion, I think, would be a mistake because most Americans oppose late-term abortion. For the pro-life movement, it's about the child, not geography. So if you're turning the pro-life movement into a geographical movement, I think you're making a mistake. A child at 15 weeks sucks his thumb, feels pain in California and New York as much as South Carolina. Well, needless to say, and as you might expect, Graham's comments didn't sit well with Trump. So let's take a look real quick at some posts on Truth Social, and then I'll get into my thoughts about the whole thing. One of the best lines I saw had to be this one. From Donald Trump's Truth Social, quote, I blame myself for Lindsey Graham because the only reason he won in the great state of South Carolina is because I endorsed him. Well, you got to give it to Trump. He's always had chutzpah and is never afraid to show you how much of it he's got. One last post on Truth Social. And here, Trump gets a little bit more philosophical about this. People forget fighting Roe v. Wade was, right from the beginning, all about bringing the issue back to the states, pursuant to the 10th Amendment and states' rights. It wasn't about anything else. I slightly disagree with him on that, but we continue. After we won, Marjorie Danfelser of Susan B. Anthony and Lindsey Graham started saying, quote, no, let's go back to the federal government with 0 weeks. And when they got nowhere, they upped it to 6 weeks. And more recently, they upped it to 15 weeks. And were ultimately willing to take the number upward because they were getting nowhere with the Democrats, and they never will, because the Democrats would never give up on the issue no matter how many weeks the abortions went, even if they went unlimited abortion. We had a great victory. It's back in the states where it belongs and where everyone wanted it. The states will be making the decision. Republicans are now free to run for office based on the horrible border, inflation, bad economy, and the death and destruction of our country. Okay, let's get into this. I can kind of see where Trump is going here, and I can kind of see what Trump's trying to do, although I think he could have maybe done it a little bit better or fleshed it out more, I guess, with more meat on the bone. But his point is valid. What he's trying to do with this, in his own way, is take the issue of abortion off the table. Frankly, though, I really wish Trump would have started doing this the minute that the Dobbs decision came down. And for that matter, I wish the Republican Party in general would have started doing it when the Dobbs decision came down. And frankly, how they should have handled it was this. Much like Trump said, the Dobbs decision puts this back in the hands of the state legislatures. I profoundly disagree with Lindsey Graham saying, well, Dobbs doesn't say there's no federal role involved. Yeah, it said there's no federal right to abortion. So frankly, if there's no federal right to it, why is the federal legislature feeling the need to get their nose into it? But I digress. Now, is abortion going to be the same in every state in America? Of course not. I live in West Virginia. It's a very conservative place. Abortion is handled here differently than it would be in New York. However, if the state legislature in New York passes a law on the question of abortion and the governor signs off on it, I might have ethical reasons to disagree with it. I might have political reasons to disagree with it. I might have moral reasons to disagree with it. I might have medical reasons to disagree with it. But from a constitutional standpoint, I don't have a leg to stand on. Why? Because via the 9th and 10th Amendments to the United States Constitution, all power not expressly granted to the federal government is hereby reserved unto the states. Now, if the state of West Virginia, on the other hand, passes a question about abortion and someone from New York may observe it, everything would be in reverse. They would have no constitutional leg to stand on. Why? Because the legislature of the state of West Virginia is sovereign on this matter. And that's the important point. Abortion was never outlawed with the Dobbs decision. It was just put back in the hands of the people to decide for themselves how they want to handle the issue. Now, that's the constitutional aspect of it. The political aspect is, and I think Trump's trying to get his own party to get there, is to realize, guys, we need to be campaigning on the border. We need to be campaigning on inflation. We need to be campaigning on any number of things. It's no longer a federal issue. We don't need to be talking about this. Now, does that mean that you're going to be able to avoid the issue altogether? Of course not, because the Democrats are going to try and tar and feather you on this if you're pro-life, no matter if you're for Lindsey Graham or Donald Trump or anybody in between. You're not going to be able to avoid the issue. But at least with a states' rights issue, number one, constitutionally, it's a far more correct position. And number two, practically speaking, it's a better political position. Trump does have a point with that one post on Truth Social. It doesn't matter how many weeks you try to negotiate with the Democrats on a ban on abortion, it's never going to be enough, and the Democrats are always going to keep pushing on it. So, in the end, is Donald Trump made the situation about abortion better in the country by changing the terms of the debate? Remains to be seen. But we'll see how all this plays out. But if nothing else, abortion is back in the headlines. We'll see where it goes from here. But that's what I've got to say about all of it. What do you think? As we start to wrap up this video, please do me some favors as always. Number one, if you're not a subscriber to my channel, please do so. Number two, please hit the bell for notifications. I want to make sure you're always aware when new material is coming out, be it a video or a live stream, which, by the way, I have a live stream on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. chatting on the porch. Please stop by. I'd love to see you there. Number three, leave a comment below. Number four, please share the video around. And finally, give me a thumbs up. Believe it or not, it helps with the algorithm. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your front porch conservative, and I will see you next time.